Hello YouTube, it's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And its title of this video is called, Like MBJ, Passport Bros are corny and can't be controlled. The sentiment of L'Oreal comment supporters. And the way this video came about was I was watching several different streams on this whole Michael B. Jordan thing. There was a lot of good content from, shout out to Dennis Sperling, to Pablo Frescobar, a lot of different people in general. So they did a lot of good streams. I was listening in, and so I wanted to kind of weigh my whole opinion on this whole thing and kind of tie that into the whole Passport Bro movement, and then also just kind of get my spin on it as well. After hearing everyone else's content, I kind of wanted to give my own little spin on it, my own little 2 cents. So the thing about this whole situation is, of course, this is a situation that a lot of guys in general can kind of relate to, especially many of the Passport Bros, as many of us have decided to get our passports and travel to get away from such the toxic culture in America, and especially within, unfortunately within the Black community. And I only call it out to say that in many cases, they always say that the Black community is the canary in the coal mine. So what you will start to see is a lot of this same sentiment is starting to spread to, like the white community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community within America. And first, let me start off by just defining what this woman has defined as corny, and what a lot of times when you hear people calling, unfortunately, a lot of hardworking men corny, what they typically mean. As many people have stated, typically they're just saying, especially in Michael B. Jordan's case, my case as well, pretty much if you're a person who does not engage in gang banging activities, you're not violent, you don't engage in degenerate behavior, you're not doing things like skipping school and saying school is for nerds and that kind of thing. If you're not engaging in those behaviors, then a lot of times people are trying to call you corny and that kind of thing. Especially in some cases, you're not trying to go along with the trends and that kind of thing. So in many cases, that's my view. And of course, because Michael Jordan at that time in high school, he was more thinking about his career and trying to build, and he wasn't trying to just he wasn't slacking. He was on his grind, and because of that, as you can see, obviously, I guess the woman's name is L'Oreal, and some of the other women as well. They made comments just saying that, they didn't think of him being, that popular, and they just had a lot of negative things to say about him because he wasn't the typical thuggish. He didn't engage in a lot of thuggish behavior for the most part. So, which is very, I think it's very sad that in many cases to kind of fit in, a lot of people have, at least engaged in behavior that's close to it, such as, sagging their pants, just trying to be like trendy, that kind of thing. To the point, and here's the thing about it, and Tariq made a good point. He said, this is Tariq Nasheed, shout out to him. He said that, and this is when he used to do his commentary on like giving guys like dating tips and that kind of thing. And he said that he doesn't like the fact that some guys feel like they have to dumb themselves down to talk to women. In other words, they have to start acting like they're street, even though they're not street. They grew up in the suburbs and that kind of thing. And you see a lot of times that some guys are like dumbing themselves down just to talk to women, and it seem like they're not corny and that kind of thing. And yeah, and it's just very and I kind of agree with Dennis Sperling in that in many cases, if you have to, if you have to kind of dumb yourself down and talk to a certain woman, I don't think that's the type of woman for you. I don't think it's going to be a good fit. I feel like you're going to be unhappy, even if you do get her. And to be honest with you, I think that woman is very controlling, and she's looking for a certain type of guy, typically a guy that's like rebellious and like gets into a lot of trouble and that kind of thing. And for you to dumb yourself down and get with that type of woman, regardless of her race, I just think it's not really worth it. I think you should kind of focus on yourself and focus on building. And I think And that's especially why I would encourage most guys, especially if you're that type of guy, you kind of feel that way. If you feel like you have to dumb yourself down, I encourage you to get your passports. There are plenty of women in different countries outside of the United States that would definitely just love a hardworking guy like you who has his stuff together. There's no need to dumb yourself down. So I'm going to say that. And that leads me to my next point. A lot of people would ask, like, why is corny such like a bad thing anyway? Which I agree. Corny just means, for the most part, you're kind of responsible and you stay out of trouble. Which is, and Dennis, he made an excellent point, which he was saying that most people in general, even these thuggish guys or the swag dudes, that kind of thing, majority of them, they kind of want their sons. If you think about it, the way they raise their sons, I'm sure they don't want their sons being gangbangers or skipping class and doing that kind of thing. Majority of them kind of would like their son to be kind of like how Michael B. Jordan is, like hardworking, clean record. He's not in trouble, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So then you have to wonder, like, okay, so then why is corny such a bad thing? And my personal opinion is because some of the women, especially American women, especially unfortunately within my own community, um, they don't like quote unquote corny dudes because, in my opinion, they can't be controlled. And you say, what do you mean by that? They can't be controlled. It's kind of like this: the dude that is not corny, who's constantly in and out of jail, constantly cutting up in school, constantly getting failing grades. That dude can be easily controlled because he's going to need a place to stay. When he messes up, he needs some woman to bail him out of jail. He needs a woman to help him pay his bills when he gets fired from his job because he doesn't know how to act. That man is very controllable. And a lot of the women, especially some American women, they really like those type of men. They don't like the opposite of men. They don't like the corny dudes because a corny dude um a corny dude, quote unquote, corny dude that has his stuff together, that dude can leave anytime. He's not dependent on any woman. If she doesn't, come correct and she's not up on his program and being supportive, he can just move on to the next woman. And I think a lot of women, especially some American women, they don't like that. Yeah, I feel like they don't like that. It's kind of like we said before. In many cases, especially when it comes to like um black men in the past, um women have kind of had, like, especially from our community, have had a monopoly on those black men. And now that we have more money, a lot of, and I believe they were saying about 57% are in the middle class. Now that a large majority of us have our stuff together, they no longer have that monopoly. And we have like choices and options, and they're trying their best to kind of limit those options as best they can. And one way is through shame, by calling you corny and trying to make it such like a negative thing. And this kind of here's the thing, because I know I have a lot of like non-black listeners listen as well. So here's the thing: I kind of see this spilling over into the non-black communities as well. And I say that because sometimes people would just think, well, why don't you just leave the women from our community alone, go date some of the other women? But I've heard women, for example, Justin Timberlake, like, most people kind of think he's trendy, but I have heard even, some non-black women say, oh, I don't see why women into him. He's kind of nerdy and corny and that kind of thing. And this is a guy who's a successful singer. He has multiple awards, but yet and still, because he's clean cut, they would label him as corny and nerdy, and as if that's a bad thing. And I only say that to say that you're starting to see this even in the non-black communities as well. And all this is about, in my opinion, is just about control, which is why I encourage most brothers, not even just black men across the board, white men, Hispanic men, Asian men, I would say explore your options. If you're not getting the treatment you get in America, and especially if you feel like you have to dumb yourself down to talk to women regardless of their race, I would encourage you to go get your passport. There's some woman in another country right now who would love to have a responsible, hardworking man who can take care of her and kind of, yeah, take her off the market and marry her, and she would gladly cook and clean for you. You don't have to be in a country where, because you're hardworking and you like to, you try to work hard in school, that people think that it's a negative thing. And And to add to that, sometimes people would say, well, the women, they don't like, quote unquote, corny dudes because they're intimidated by them. And I actually don't even think I used to think that as well. Like sometimes, for example, within my community, people would say they don't like the good, quote unquote, nice guys or whatever because they're somewhat intimidated by you because you got a lot of stuff going on. So they're intimidated by you. But the thing, the reason I can't really even get with that is because if that's the case, then why would they go to a non-black community and get a guy from the non-black community? And specifically, for example, Serena Williams, if you think about the non-black guy that she got, I mean, the guy isn't necessarily like a trendy dude. So I would just say but a lot of the women within my community would support that kind of guy, like black women dating that kind of dude, even though within our own race they don't support a guy like that because they would just call him corny. So you can't really say that it's because they're intimidated. Same thing I said, and as I said before, you're starting to see this even in the non-black communities as well. As I said before, Mark Zuckerberg, I believe he's dating like an Asian woman. And I want to say she's foreign. I'm not really sure, but the thing is, you're starting to notice in the other communities as well that some of the women, American women in general, don't really like the responsible, nice, quote unquote, nice dude in general. They only like him once, they kind of run out of options and then they come back. So my personal opinion is it has nothing even to do with them being intimidated by the quote unquote corny dude. I don't even think it's really that. It's really my personal opinion, and some people may agree, may disagree. I really feel that a lot of the women, and I'm going to say American women in general, they kind of feel like they're better in many cases than their male counterpart. And you'll say, what do you mean by that? Perfect example of this is, if you think about it, when you're in high school, you're in college, these women are right around like their prime years or whatever. So during that time, they're dating a quote unquote top of the line guys, guys who are like starters on a football team, basketball team, the guys who kind of have a little bit of status, that kind of thing. And they're dating these kind of dudes. But at that time, men such as myself, Michael B. Jordan, some of the Passport Bros, we're kind of like working on building our careers, getting our education, grinding, trying to work towards our future. So then I really, it's kind of hard to kind of compete at that time because we really don't have our resources up at that time. So we're not really in our prime. So I think that a lot of those women, they kind of remember where we were at, just like L'Oreal remembers where Michael B. Jordan was at. And they kind of felt like at that time, we were kind of, I hate to say, kind of beneath them. Like, we're kind of like the peasants. They're kind of like the queens, and they dating the kings of that time. And then when we get older, of course, we get our shine, but they still hold on to that high school, college view of you, and they feel like, well, even though you got a job, even though you got this little amount of money and that, blah, 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 you still corny in my eyes. You still that guy that's on high school that wanted to talk to me. So you should even be lucky now that I'm even talking to you. But unbeknownst to them, that was in their prime. We're now going towards our prime. And it's kind of like, and this is really why a lot of times when we saw like Russell Wilson getting down with Sierra, we were trying to warn him because it's kind of like we know to some degree she still has that mentality of you're like this corny dude. And, she's used to dating these, it's a certain type of guy she's used to dating. These, I would say the opposite of the corny dude, which is like degenerate dudes for the most part. I'm gonna put it that way. And I'm not trying to like judge a lot of guys, but she's used to dating guys that's kind of degenerate, engaging in a lot of degenerate behavior. So, one has to wonder, why would she want to go from dating degenerate dudes to suddenly dating a guy who's quote unquote corny? Russell Wilson has his stuff together, he's clean cut, and that kind of thing. And in many cases, to me, it's kind of like she just kind of wanted to do it because just to say that she got married and that kind of thing. But deep down, it's almost like you wonder if she even really respects him or sees him like that. And a better a better version of this is, if you remember Stephen Curry, he met his wife when he was in high school, and he said at that time she didn't really want to be down with him until I guess she saw that he was going towards like the NBA. And then eventually they got together. And what you start to notice about her is that slowly but surely within their relationship, she kind of was trying to be out there on like IG and TikTok and, trying to be out into social media. And people just saying, why don't she just want to sit in the background, let him make the money, and she can just be a housewife? It's like she didn't want to do that. And it's like when I was listening to BGS, and I agree with him, it's almost like she still thinks she's better than him for some reason. She still thinks she's better than him. And I just feel like a lot of women in this country, they still feel like they're better than most of the quote unquote, dude, for the most part, if put it this way, if you're not like a degenerate, the dude that engaged in a lot of degenerate behavior, or you're not like I would say like an athlete or entertainer or something like of that element, of that cloth, for some reason, I feel like a lot of women, they kind of feel like you're like a scrap or like a leftover or like kind of like, yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like a beta buck or something like that. That's kind of how like a lot of them are really viewing you, which is why so many guys in general have just said, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this toxic behavior. I'm just going to go overseas. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just going to move on. And I salute those brothers, those white brothers, Hispanic brothers, Asian brothers, and my, black brothers as well. I salute you. I encourage most guys that if you're not getting the results, put it this way, if you're a guy who has your stuff together, especially you guys who are like making over the average, you have a well-paid job, you're doing really well, you got your finances in order, you got your plan for your future in order. You're not out there engaging in degenerate behavior, like I said, going to jail, getting involved in scamming and illegal activities. I feel like if you're that type of dude and you feel like you have to dumb yourself down to deal with some of these women, I feel like it's not even worth it. Just get your passport, go overseas. Like Austin Holloman said, it's that bad. It really is. It really is getting that bad. So I don't want to keep this video that long, so I'm going to kind of end it here. But you guys tell me what you think about my commentary, what you think about this whole situation. Please leave your comments. Please hit the thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell if you have not. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.